It really took me a long time to actually do this video involving Shanquella Robinson because it's such a horrible, horrific case. But I had to do my due diligence and bring this to the attention of those who may not be aware of it. Just like everyone else, this poor girl was slain mercilessly, and she deserves all the attention until justice is brought to her. And so I'm sure everyone is wondering what's next for Shanquella Robinson. Her murderers, what does the FBI know? What does Mexican authorities know? Will the culprits be extradited to Mexico? Will they be tried in Mexico or in the United States? Will the United States deny any extradition process? All these questions are circulating because this is such a case that's garnered the attention of the masses. Many people are waiting with bated breath as the evidence gets revealed to the public slowly every single day. And it's sort of like a community effort. People are going to social media to expose where the culprits might be hiding, where they're seeking refuge, and exposing them on social media. And so it's really been a sensation and helped to bring so much attention to this case. And fortunately, the Robinson family leaned on social media to bring justice to their daughter. And man, did the public hear the cry. And it's wonderful to see that the public, you and me, ordinary citizens, are rallying behind this family and giving them a voice to make sure and to ensure justice is brought to Shanquella. Now, before I get into any other details regarding this case, this is the legal code, and on this channel we discuss a wide range of legal topics, whether that's public policy, whether that laws that affect your small business that you should know about, and occasionally we do touch on celebrity mishaps and their shenanigans, but only in so much as you can gain some value for their mistakes. I don't care about pop culture. I only care to extract some value that you can apply to your everyday life. So if you like that sort of thing, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and please share with anyone else you think will find value. And to my supporters who keep coming back and watching me, I really, really appreciate it. This is a labor of love, and I enjoy giving you this information and my experience and bringing it to you so that it can help you. With that being said, I am a real-life attorney, so if you would like the opportunity to meet with me to troubleshoot areas of your small business or areas in your personal life, or you just have a legal questions that you just need to speak to an attorney and you don't even know how to contextualize it, you can of course reach out to me. There's a link in the description box, and we'll set up a consultation so we can go through and discuss your next steps. And so this is especially for someone who is tired of duct taping things together, going on LegalZoom, trying to Google topics to figure things out. We'll come up with a strategy, best case scenario, worst case scenario, so that you can be move forward in your life and you won't be totally immobilized by whatever is stressing you out. So again, there is a link in the description box. Now, without further ado, let's get into Shanquella Robinson's case. Now, to recap, and for those who may not be aware, watching this way in the future, Shanquella Robinson mysteriously died while vacationing in Mexico with friends. She traveled with a group of friends, we'll call them companions from now on, who pretty much set her up to beat her while onlookers filmed it. Authorities found her body 24 hours later after she arrived inside of the villa in the living room which she rented along with her other companions. So the filming of the beating is what appeared to be in the bedroom that we all saw, and apparently her body was dragged to the living room because that's where her body was found according to the death certificate. So after Robinson passed away, Robinson's companion, Khalil, informed Shanquella's parents that she died of alcohol poisoning. Investigators discovered that Robinson did not pass away from alcohol poisoning. Rather, the autopsy report revealed that her neck and spine were severely broken and no alcohol was found in her system at the time of death. Also, Robinson's friends told the police as well that she died from alcohol poisoning. So this is what they tried with the authorities to bring the attention away from them. And then they returned to the United States with Shanquella's body still in Mexico, leaving her family to piece her murder, her death together. In the interview, Shanquella's mother questioned all of their stories, their innocence, because they all had different stories, different accounts of what actually happened to her daughter. Now, the FBI is involved as well as Mexican authorities. And of course, the identities of the images of the companions who traveled with Shanquella have all been released. We have Khalil Cook, Winter Donovan, Elise Hyatt, Dejan Jackson, and Nazir Wiggins. Now, Dejan is the one who fled to Connecticut. She is the woman that we all saw beating up on Shanquella. Now, thankfully, social media is being used to, like I say, propel momentum and bring attention and expose these people. This is the bright side of social media. It's used to spread the images of these people. Now, Shanquella's travel companions have since removed or privated their social media accounts, with an exception of Nazir Wiggins, who tries to exonerate himself in this bogus live that he does with too many details. It's so obvious that he's lying. You could clearly see that he's lying. He does not have the demeanor, the attitude of someone who has been through a shocking experience of learning that their friend passed away just a few days ago. I mean, even the details that he decides to speak about, the time, oh, it was 6:18 this time. No one remembers those type of details when they're traveling. When you're traveling, you're consumed with trying to get to where you are, but you're not hyper vigilant about time, in my take, unless you have perhaps a business meeting. He would not be that conscientious of time, and he doesn't take me as a person to be that detail oriented, because you remember that whole faux pas with the passport. He doesn't know whether or not his passport is actually signed. You know, just these extraneous details that led me to believe that he's lying. Like many people, they could tell he was lying. I have a lot of experience with this. I worked at the DA's office for many years in Kings County, so I'm familiar with homicide cases and the investigation process, and pretty much can tell immediately when someone is lying. It's a skill I developed working with, you know, some of the most dangerous people in the city who would, you know, do all sorts of horrific things. I've experienced reading people and can immediately tell when someone is lying. That's my opinion on his little bogus testimony there. That will be used against him when they're tried. Maybe there's a possibility they won't be tried in the US, but in Mexico. So we are waiting for the details of the investigation as this all continues to be revealed to us, and wondering whether or not Mexico will ask for their criminals back. What is the law regarding this? Because it's an international crime and everyone is looking at Mexico. What are you going to do? So we're going to talk about what happens legally, because the crime happened in Mexico. The suspects fled to the United States. The legal proceedings require the involvement of both governments, the United States and Mexico. And we must also consider the possibility of extradition. Now, extradition is the removal of a person from the requested state to a requested state for a criminal prosecution or punishment. Put differently, to extradite someone is to surrender or to obtain a surrender of a fugitive from one jurisdiction, the United States, to another jurisdiction, Mexico, and are normally determined by a reciprocal agreements between the countries or treaties. So we have a multilateral agreements across different country borders. Many of the United States extradition treaties require that the allegation against the extradition target be a crime in the United States as well, in order for the extradition to go through. In this case, it's murder. When someone's accused of this crime, there's no issue whether or not it's a crime in another place. When an individual is accused of a crime, she will be tried, and if convicted, sentenced to in the jurisdiction where the crime was committed. Mexican authorities often extradite American citizens to the United States in instances where the Americans flee to Mexico to avoid prosecution. Likewise, the United States commonly returns Mexican nationals for crimes committed in the United States pursuant to these extradition treaties that America has with Mexico along with other countries. Now, requests for extradition process are managed by the State Department and the Department of Justice. To begin the process, Mexico will reach out to their embassy in Washington, D.C. in order to begin to make an extradition process to the Department of State, who then requests the U.S. Attorney in the district where the target is located in order to begin the extradition process in the federal courts. It's a federal process, not based on state level, and it's probably a lengthy process, but my bet is because the attention this case is getting, it will happen quickly. The federal court will then review the evidence submitted against the target, the criminals, and if sufficient, will issue a warrant for his or her arrest, which is where we are right now. Mexico and Mexican authorities have issued an arrest warrant for the culprits. And so it's up to the U.S. to honor this or to deny it. It's important to note that although a vehicle for extradition exists, the United States can resist it in certain circumstances in extraditing its own citizens to other countries because of the incongruity of the legal system, harsh punishments in other jurisdictions, and whether the extradition is politically motivated. The concern of harsh punishment might be on the table. I'll discuss Mexican prisons later on. Now, everyone, of course, is calling for the extradition to Mexico because, let's face it, Mexican prisons do not have the protection, the comfort of U.S. prisons. And they have not guaranteed any respect for human rights in accordance with Mexican laws and international mechanism. Now, according to Brookings Institute, prisons don't even provide food, hygienic facilities, and health care like their neighbor, the United States. What's happened is that families are responsible for providing these benefits. Families must supply food, clothing, funds, and 60% of the Mexican prisons are actually run by gangs. So there might be a concept of harsh punishment because the prison system in Mexico, it's not as well organized. It's not funded by private industry the way it is in Mexico. I mean, in the United States, it's big business. In Mexico, it's not. It's run by gangs, and I believe it's the local government that pretty much sets up the prison system. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section. With that being said, it's not a walk in the park to be in any Latin American prison. I'm familiar with Latin America, hablo español, and I've spent a lot of time in Mexico and Colombia, and this is their worst nightmare. They have no idea what this is going to turn into. Police in these sorts of countries, it's like it's on a whole nother level. It makes police in the United States look like kindergartners in terms of like human rights violations in compared to how police are trained in the United States and how the justice system is in Mexico. It is a whole nother level. And these hooligans had no idea what they were getting themselves into by committing this crime in Mexico and thinking they were going to get away with it and actually flee to the United States. That's also what Mexico is probably. Most people flee to Mexico. They commit the crime in United States and then flee to Mexico. But again, because of the extradition process, because of the treaties, the multilateral treaties that the United States and the Mexico have together, each government has an obligation to extradite each other's nationals when they've committed a crime in said jurisdiction. So that is likely what we will expect. With this, I do not see America denying, with the exception of the harsh punishment. That is probably the only legitimate reason I see America denying the extradition of these criminals, there's no other reason credible that I could see that will pass muster. Because also America and New Mexico have a very complicated relationship. They have Mexico relies heavily on the tourist economy of Americans. And so this sort of incident impacts their tourist economy. So, and they know they're on the world stage. Every country, nationals of every country is watching how Mexico handles this. So Mexico needs to strike down with the hand of God to gain the respect of other countries, other nations, as well as to gain the confidence of travelers, knowing that this is still a safe country to go to. Because this puts Mexico on the map for a very negative thing. Even though this was a crime committed by Americans, it still brings negative attention to Mexico. It makes it seem like Mexico has issues with crime, with law enforcement. So Mexico wants to handle this appropriately in order, like I said, to continue to have the respect of travelers and that travelers feel safe. This impacts their economy. They rely on remittances. They rely on American dollars heavily. And so that's what I see. I think Mexico is going to be very aggressive in how they treat this. And even other nations going forward, this will be the model in terms of, no, you're not going to come here, commit your crimes, and then flee to your country. No, we will hunt you down legally within the confines of the law and make sure that you have to answer for what you have done, for your transgressions. So that's my take on it. Let me know in the comments section if you have any questions about the extradition process. Also, some other interesting facts I was reading about Mexican prisons. Mexican prisons only have about 250,000 prisoners compared to American prisons, which have 2 million prisoners. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? I mean, we could speculate as to why. Like I said, American prison is big business, whereas Mexico, it's not financed by private industry in the same way it is in the United States on such a mass scale. So that was interesting to know too, because America likes to market itself as this safe place. But why is it 2 million people are in prison? And Mexico gets vilified as being unsafe, being gang-laden, drugs, cartels, but only 250 prisoners. But this is a dynamic of you know, a brown country and an imperialist country. So the rhetoric, of course, is going to portray the Latin American country as dangerous, when in all actuality the numbers point towards a different scenario where America has a lot of prisoners. So that's just a sidebar to this case. I do also want to mention again that social media has impacted the aggression in which this case has been covered. Unfortunately, we might see justice for Shanquella and her family very, very soon. So let me know your thoughts. Again, any questions, drop them in the comment section, and I will see you next time. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye-bye.